Okay, now what I want to do, now that I have basically the underpainting laid in, what I'd really like to focus on is getting kind of one area close to a finish. And usually how I start that is I like to start at the top and work my way down. So, and this is the same process I use when I street paint, mostly because I don't want to have to sit on the area that I've already worked on. So I start from the top and I work my way down the drawing. I'm going to do the same with this because I want to start focusing in on the forehead. And then I really want to move down into these eyes, which I think are a really important part of any portrait. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little magnifying glass and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on the forehead. And I really don't need it that close, but let's zoom out just a little. Okay, that's probably good for now. Let's try that. And if you want, you can zoom in on this too. So we really see the color variations here. So let's just basically start with the same process that we've been using. And let's see if we can move up here into these kind of darker mauves. Let's try these and see what we can come up with. Again, I have the large 100 brush. And what this is going to do is I'm creating consecutive layers. And it's building on top of what we already have. And I'm really going to start to achieve an opaque surface or layer over this sketch. Okay, so you can see I'm building up those colors, but you can still see hints of the colors that I had underneath. I'm going to go a little bit lighter. And I really want to start to build up these highlighted areas that we have in the original photograph. Let's come over here to something a little warmer. These are a little bit on the cool side of the warms. So let's come up here to, let's try this. It's kind of almost a terracotta. Let's try that along the side. And look how that warms up, really nice. We're going to do the side of the nose here. Because I have that color, I want to add it in other places. Just a hint of it so it doesn't seem foreign. Okay, that's looking good. We're going to continue here. Let's see what else we have. You know what, let's try this here. It's a little more brown. It's a little like the colors we were using in the beginning. And it's also a little bit, let's go a little bit lighter. That's better. There we go. So now we're starting to really build up the opacity and achieve the texture and highlights of the forehead. And you can see the light is pretty much over this eye here. Okay, I'm going to try a little bit of this pink. Again, just want to get, let's raise the brush and just kind of blush over this. Much better. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a lighter color, this light peach, and I'm going to do just that highlight over the eye, just a little bit. Let's go with the 65 brush. And let's go a little bit lighter. There we go. And all this is going to fall underneath her hair. Okay, let's move down to the eye. I'm going to get that same highlight color in there. And let's come in with a darker color. I'm going to do this really deep brick red. I'm going to lower my brush size. And I'm going to come in here and start to define the shape of the eyelid. Okay, you can see in this one, it's almost kind of a triangle. Okay, the point is almost opposite of the direction she's looking in. Okay, it's up at this angle. I'm going to emphasize that. I really want to emphasize kind of the angle of her eye where she's looking. I'm also going to put this color a little bit under those eyebrows. Okay, we want to keep those in the picture. We want to keep those defined as we go. So little by little, I'm just building up area by area, not to a finish, just so it looks closer to complete. So I'm going to take this brick red and bring it down into the nose. The nose has this kind of a teardrop shape at the end of it. We really want to focus on getting the shape of that in there with highlights and shadows. And the shadows are a little intense now, but again, we haven't done our highlights, so those will come in later. We want to get these edges in. Okay, so the reason this color doesn't stand out is basically because this side of the face is darker than it is over here. So once we put these highlights on, that color that we just put on the edge of the nose is going to pop. So before we do that, we're going to work on these eyes a little bit more. And that means getting a cooler dark. So let's go back down here. Let's try this here. It may seem a little dark, but again, we're using transparency. It's not very opaque. Let's try an 18 and let's try a 17-inch brush and let's see what we can do here. What we want to do is we want to define that overlap of the lid. We can still see our drawing. And we just want to take our brush and slope over that lid. If you don't get it right the first time, don't worry too much about it. We just kind of need to get that dark in there. What we're going to do is we're going to bury this line that we just made. And what that means is now that we've put that dark down there, we can go over it on either side with a different color and thin out that line. So let me show you what I mean by that. First, I'm going to do this upper lid area here. So let's take one of these, let's see. Let's take one of the mauves here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over this green line, but we're slightly going to overlap it on this edge here. Okay. So now that I slightly overlapped it, you can already see that it's a thinner line. That's what we want. I'm softening the line that I just made by applying a little less pressure as I use the brush. Okay, now we have a soft line. Now the top edge is buried. Now I want to bury the underside to really thin it out like it is over here. So now what I'll use is one of the darker mauve colors. Let's actually try the darkest. And I'm going to do the same thing underneath and overlap that line. And if you need to do it in little increments, that's fine. Sometimes it's easier than doing one swoop. Okay, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to take a darker, cooler brown and bury that even more. So now not only is it buried, but it's also transitioning to that eyelid. And that's what we needed. Okay, we can do the same thing over here. We can bury that a little. Let's take our pink again and really fade that. That's actually a little bit too light. There we go. Now what we can do is let's take our sienna, get a larger brush, and we're going to kind of dust over that area just as you would do with maybe an eyeshadow to really soften those together. Now see how it just really softened that green line that we originally put down. Then what you can do is soften the sienna that we just put down with a lighter color just by doing that. And basically we just continue that process until we're satisfied with how the eye looks. I'm going to lower my brush. I'm going to get that kind of eyeliner that she has. And I don't want her to have a definitive eyeliner, but I really want to create a lash line. That'll make it easier for us later. And again, this lash line we're going to bury once we get it on there and kind of in the angle and shape that we want. Again, if you want to, you can go in and redefine these eyes. I always like to make sure there's a shadow just under that lid, so you can darken things up just a little bit. Let's make sure that this eye over here has its shadow also. And again, we're going to switch colors. We're going to bury that just slightly. See that transition we've created from the dark to the light. We always want to transition. There we go, much better.